Welcome to Dr. Cindy Speaks, regular musings and reflections on politics, current events. Dr. Cindy Banyai is a mom and small business owner fighting for our water, our health, our community. She's running for the people of Southwest Florida, trying to flip Florida 19 from red to blue. Listen as she speaks truth to power.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dr. Cindy Speaks. I am your host, Dr. Cindy Banyai. We're here on the Big Mouth Media Network, and I am continuing my commitment to you to bring you the voice of candidates who are running across Florida and indeed across the United States, who are lifting up the progressive values that are so important to so many of us, and that are willing to do the work of the people once they get into office. I think it's so important, especially for Democrats that are running in traditionally red districts, that they have a voice, because some of the consultant class and the strategic folks and the DNC and the DCCC and blah, 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 they don't necessarily like to give these folks any airtime whatsoever. They have this strategy of just like retrenching to blue areas, and a lot of the rest of us get left out. And that, I think, is one of the reasons why we've been left with this polarizing divide in this country, because we don't have competitive districts, because interests have retrenched to their power holds and bases. We are not having the conversations necessary. And I think it's important that we have a good selection of candidates with diverse ideas, that we can allow the voters to have a true choice. So that's why I'm here today with congressional candidate Alan Spence. Hey, Alan.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me on your show, Doctor. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So he is running in Florida 17, which is the district that, well, geez, actually, it's my district now. Holy moly. Holy moly. I forgot. We have this crazy redistricting here in Florida. We had been Florida 19, which is the Congressman Byron Donalds. And then Ron DeSantis told my opponent, Jennifer Sonswollica, to rubber stamp his map. And they cut Fort Myers out and they put it into 17, which is a whole new district for the city of Fort Myers. But we have some great folks who have been running up there. I have a long history with Florida 17, back when it was the largest district in the state of Florida that encompassed like 10 counties. When my good friend Alan Ellison was running in that district. And there are neighbors. And frankly, anybody who gets elected to Congress is going to be serving not only the state, but people across the country. So folks should really be paying attention. But without further ado on that, let me go ahead and let Alan introduce himself. So go ahead, Alan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the opportunity. I start off with, I'm a lifelong Floridian. I've lived here my whole life. I was born in Daytona Beach. I've lived in places like Miami. I've lived in Tampa, St. Petersburg area for many years. And I actually am a native, I don't want to say native Southwest Florida, but I graduated high school from Fort Myers High. Working my whole life. My first job actually was 15 years old. I worked at a golf course growing in Bonita Springs. And that was some of the hardest work I've done in my entire life. I have a ton of respect for people out there working.
Yeah, it's hot.
Absolutely. And I've been working my whole life. So I'm not has a full ride scholarship to the best schools in the country. I've been working since I'm 15, and I haven't stopped. I worked basically all through high school, and then in college, I even had 2 jobs for a period of time. I worked at Publix. I also did an internship where I was paid. I worked at for a long time. I haven't stopped working since I've been 15, and that's one of the key issues I think we face in this country and this state is our politicians are part of this ruling class, career politicians that are bought by special interests. We actually need working class people in these jobs making laws that actually benefit the people.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds a lot like me too. Like I've never known a time in my life where I've only had one job. Actually, that's not true. There's only been one time in my life where I had one job, and that's when I was a kindergarten teacher in Taiwan. That was the only time in my entire life. And it was about as close to like a 9 to 5 job you had, where I had to be at the same place every day. We did have 3-hour nap time, which was cool.
I wouldn't.
But like the whole rest of my life, like you, like I've been working. 2 jobs. I started out working at Toys R Us and movie theater when I was 16, just like you, like different things going on. And yeah, you get a totally different perspective of the world when you don't have it handed to you on a silver platter. So that is really awesome to hear that you are a working class folk. And I love that you're from Fort Myers because I live in Fort Myers. My daughter goes to Fort Myers High School. So that's so wonderful hearing about your background. And the next thing I want to hear about is I want to hear about why you're running for Congress. So if you're a guy who's been working, helping, taking care of your family, why did you want to step up to run for Congress? Because this is like not an easy thing to do, and it's kind of crazy. We're in a kind of a crazy area. So what's compelling you to run?
Yeah, I'm very, very dissatisfied with what's going on in our country. There's a lot of reasons for it. A big reason was we saw. So to back up a little bit, I was very upset about January 6th. I actually used to be a Republican, and it became clear to me the Republican Party was going to nominate Donald Trump after January 6th, the presidential nominee. I was pissed. So I've been on this journey away from the Republican Party for about almost 6 years now after January 6th. I became an MPA voter, voted the straight Democratic ticket. I realized Trump and the Republicans were proposing, they actually didn't help anybody else, and then when the administration came online, it was worse than I ever could have imagined. So we the Park Service cut, NOAA is cut, US benefits, all the things that benefit normal working class people and cut.
Yeah.
And so during Doge, I really got energized. I started going to the Tesla takedowns at the Tesla dealership in Fort Myers.
Wow.
I remember feeling so energetic and happy out of what I was, and I kind of took that farther. I went to, there was a protest in Murdoch Circle in Charlotte County, where I live in Charlotte County. And they were, it was a big protest, and I joined the Democratic Party after the takedown. And they gave me a piece of paper to go to the Charlotte County Democratic Club. So you know what? I went to that, and that meeting changed my trajectory because the party was asking for candidates. And I decided that there's histories. I'm very much a history, learning history, learn our lessons from history. And one of the lessons from history is that you must learn from your mistakes. And there's examples through history where people don't stand up when they see things that are going wrong, and they try to change things. So I wanted to stop being this very person online and try to focus my energy and do something productive. And I also want to be on the record as well as not liking happening and speaking out against. I think in 5 to 10 years, there's going to be people who say they had nothing to do with MAGA, they didn't like the administration. And it's very important for me personally to be on the record that this is something that I don't like, and I spoke out against it, and I want to take out the biggest MAGA member of Congress, and that's our representative that we have in District 17. He is a loser that does not care about the people. He has never had a town hall. I call him a town hall. I've spoken to more constituents than he think he's had a job for 8 years. And, I'm going to call him out. Have a wonderful policy agenda as well. I'm going to make sure that every voter who votes for him this next cycle knows that he supports policies that raise the price, that create the budget deficit, that just leads to this run-on effect, uncertainty and chaos.
Sure. Yeah. And I love that you said that January 6th was a catalyzing moment for you, because it was certainly a catalyzing moment for me. I was already involved, right? I was running in 2020 for Congress because as a policy expert, as a governance expert, I saw in Donald Trump a lot of really frightening things. I ultimately believe that the government can be a force for good. That's why we created the stupid thing, right? There's not everything's perfect. I'm never going to say that it's perfect. It's our thing. It's people affect it. And so if we don't get involved, we're not going to get what we want out of it. And I just saw so many worrying things, everything from foreign influence, from this kleptocracy idea where we have just rampant corruption. And yeah, I agree with you. It's actually gotten worse, worse than I had imagined, faster than I had imagined as well. And January 6th was right in there. I'm like, are we really seeing, is this really happening? This is
Is
happening.
this real? Yeah.
It's real.
I see myself, so with all Democrats talk about what have called the blue wave in this next election. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about what is the blue wave. I believe the blue wave are people that voted in the middle and voted to the right, who are now going to be voting left this next election. And we've seen it in special elections. I am the blue wave. I represent the blue wave in Southwest Florida because I used to be one of those people that have voted right. Now I voted left the last election, but that's what the blue wave is. I'm literally the personification of the blue wave in Southwest Florida. And, it's very important that they're trying to play these games, these maps and dirty tricks. If the people just come out and vote, ask your neighbors to vote, like it's going to end up blowing up in their face because they will lose more power than they would have if they didn't redo the maps. The biggest thing I can tell people is to get out and vote for people that are working class, people that have policies that support working class people. That's the biggest thing we can do right now.
Yeah, I love that too. Because we definitely need to double down on those basics of our democracy, running for office, supporting candidates, getting your voter registration out, getting other people to vote, and then ultimately voting itself, because that's also under threat. But all of that is under threat in ways that I could never have imagined before Donald Trump was president. And like I said, I'm somebody who's been in this. I've studied degrees and like going all the way back. I first worked on Capitol Hill in 1999. Okay. I worked for Republicans, by the way, in 1999. And I worked for Democrats in 2000 after that. So I've been on both sides of the aisle. And it used to really be, there was a handful of issues, but you could have Republicans that cross over, Democrats that cross over. But we see even less of that now. You look at what happened with the Senate race in Louisiana, where Bill Cassidy was primaried by somebody who Donald Trump, wanted to win. He basically even said, just give me a warm body. Wanted him out so badly. Guy came in third place, not even going to make it to the runoff, all because he stood up to Donald Trump. And he stood up, he voted for the impeachment, and he was not somebody who was going to be quiet on that. And that is really scary too, because like I said, there used to be a time where the parties weren't so staunchly in their corners. There was crossover. And I do hope, like you say right now, that there is some growing crossover. So let's talk about that. Where are you seeing that crossover, especially in Southwest Florida, where we do, we've had a lot of Republican leadership. There's a lot of gerrymandering, there's a lot of monkeying going on, but we have a lot of Republicans, we have a lot of Republican voters. But where are you seeing that crossover where you can get people to maybe think about voting against this entrenched corporate corrupt establishment?
Well, there's quite a few areas. The first one I would talk about would just be, the biggest one whenever you fill up your breast. This war was unnecessary, and more people are realizing it. Yes, it's illegal, but it comes down to it. America was not threatened. And this is a war choice. The president did not make the case to the American people. And if the war honestly was so noble and justified, Congress should have voted on it and they should have approved it. And another one would be, the AI data centers. So a lot of people on the right who feel like that these AI data centers are being put in there and they're destroying their communities, and the locals don't have a way to put. It kind of talks about, just development in general, but the AI data centers are a huge deal. And that's why one of the things, I have this thing called the prosperity agenda. You can get that on my website. In the prosperity agenda, one of the things I want to do is for AI data centers is I want to make them higher power rates than what residential customers pay. And actually, these AI companies are getting a lower rate. And that's important because a lot of these AI companies are startups and they show losses to attract customer growth. And the true cost of the energy consumption it should be passed on to the end users of these AI data centers. And what's happening is it's being put on to consumers. We just saw, just was looking at Duke Energy, and their big power increase that they had through the Public Service Commission. It's going to make people where I live, it's my power is $175 a year because that's just the average. Sorry, FPL.
FPL just did the same thing too.
Yeah, FPL is where. Sorry,
I was going to say. Well, don't worry, and there's going to be more coming because you saw today the announcement between the merger between Nextra and Dominion. So that's going to be another thing. Yeah, I just saw that come through. But they're going to keep jacking up those prices. And Florida has the largest increases in power rates in the country.
So the incumbent that I'm running against, the person that, is more loyal to the president than the people, he had 18 contributions from NextEra Energy since he's been in Congress. And he was getting contributions from their PAC, leading up to big increase in rates, and even afterwards, how is he going to do the right thing and protect the people? How is he going to know what to do with these AI data centers? And,
He's not. He's going to pocket that cash like a lot of these other folks.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit more about what you're going to do in response to these data centers. So you said that you're going to raise the rates. Is there anything else that we can do to stop these sky high energy costs that we are seeing and to protect our environment?
Yeah. So any company that whose main input is the power needs to have a professional rate for power, and that residents pay a lower rate. What's important is what a lot of Republicans want to do. There's two main issues: is regulations and power generation. So on regulations, the Republican Party used to be about states' rights. Now you have the Republican Party, Trump, saying that he doesn't want states to make their own AI data rules. I think that's wrong. Locals should be able to make their own laws and rules about things.
Yep.
And two is the power generation. They want to let these companies build their own power supply. And I think that's wrong. All we have to do is look at XAI in Memphis. The NAACP is suing XAI there because they have these diesel turbine engines that emit this gas that causes asthma and lung cancer, higher rates in other places. And they weren't putting them in there, and somebody put a thermal drone up there, and they saw all of these diesel turbines. And so we can't let them have their own power supply. I'm also very much against these nuclear power plants that they want to build there. We look at Ukraine. They have these nuclear power plants that are now the focal points of the battle. The Soviets never could have that Ukraine and Russia would be fighting a war against each other. Just like the Japanese have Fukushima, and we have the nuclear water being released into the ocean, that they couldn't plan for that tidal wave. And in Florida, where I am now, used to be underwater thousands of years ago. So how can you?
And will be very soon again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Like within 100 years, guys, it's coming.
It's, but we can prepare. Like places like Miami Beach and New York City are mitigating that. They're being proactive and trying to deal with they're not fixing the problem, but they're dealing with the outcomes of what's going to happen. They're treating the symptoms, which is all they can really do. One thing also, for the environment is, I'm a scoutmaster. I'm one of the scoutmasters, one of the Scouting American troops in Punta Gorda, where my son is a scout there. And there we have this wonderful scout reservation there off of Vermont Road called Camp Miles. That was money to buy that land was given by the state, and huge preserve there, but they had to build something for the youth, and that's what they did. They leased it to the Scouting America program. I would be a vote to increase, money to states so they could buy these lands that can set them aside, especially the orange groves. The orange groves are the things that are being sold off and developed right now.
Yep.
No money in the orange and the citrus industry anymore.
Yeah. And, it's been so crazy. There's so much stuff that's been going through the government. Doge destroyed large swaths of our administration. We have wars and all sorts of crazy stuff. One thing that's been very sad to see kind of fall by the wayside, but there's been significant cuts to and significant rule changes is around all of our parks, our national parks, and the National Forest Service. So from my understanding that they cut the Federal Forest Service staff down to like 0. And they want to, they're going to get rid of the buffalo. They are going to open up for public grazing. They're going to open up for drilling in the Arctic. And I don't think people really fully realize like what we're losing there. We are losing these opportunities for people to connect with nature and see the amazing things that we see in this country, the historic parts of that as well. I did a tour with my kids last year where we hit about 17 national parks all through the Pacific Northwest. And this year we're going to be doing the Southwest again. And in that, I think we're going to hit about 7 national parks and forests. And that camping, they actually offer free camping in national forests, guys, if you didn't know. But not only that, but it's protecting the wildlife, protecting the ecosystem, protecting our ecodiversity. And guess what they also do? They do forestry management, which is a huge factor in forest fires, right? So whether or not you're going to have a forest fire that goes into one of these preserves and then jumps over and hurts people, property, stuff like that. So the fact that this has been cut and decimated in so many different ways, and it was just honestly another casualty of the wanton presidency of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad to me. So I like that you're paying attention to those other factors as
Well,
well.
it's even worse because this is the mindset these people. They look at our national parks as an asset on the balance sheet, and they're going to end up destroying the most places in America. And it's wrong on so many levels.
And that bugs me too, because I have this whole thing where people are like, we got to run the government like a business, but the government's not a business. The government is there for public good. So there are things that are inherently going to cost money. The UPS or the Postal Service is a good example of this. We provide this as a service so everybody in the United States is connected in some way, right? So you can have that level of connectivity. And that actually, by the way, the investments that were put into there will pave the way, literally pave the way for profit industries to build off of that, both in terms of airmail and its relationship to the airline industry and the trains and the roads. It started from public investment for the public good. And it just drives me absolutely bananas that people that think that you can apply the business principles to it. And to a certain extent, that's actually what we're seeing with Donald Trump is you try to squeeze out as much as you can, squeeze out as much profit, forget the rules, and you make as much money as you can for yourself, and then you pull the ripcord right before you get thrown out the door.
Leave somebody else to clean up.
Yeah. That's like your 80s style mergers and acquisitions and greed is good and all that stuff. It's got way too much weird throwback stuff going on. But so before we close out today, there was another thing that you were talking about that was really interesting to me, and that was how you got brought into this because of your activism. So you started with the Tesla takedowns and started going to other protests and stuff like that. But I hear that you have a protest of your own coming up. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, I'd love to tell you about that. Thank you. We have our own protest here. You can go to my website and RSVP. It's spence2026.com. But one of the things that the incumbent enjoys, he loves the congressional baseball game. It's the biggest day of the year for him. This man never misses the baseball game. He's the star pitcher. But you know what he doesn't do, though? He doesn't do his job. He doesn't speak to people. He's never held a town hall. So we're trying to get a couple hundred people up to Sarasota for this event on June 10th at 5 p.m. And I need to get the media there. And if I can get a couple hundred people there, I'll get the media to cover it. It's going to juxtaposition that a man that cares more about baseball than he does actually doing his job and representing the people, what the people elected him to do. We hope to make the news cycle because they might cover the congressional baseball game, especially if he does well. So it's about telling a story that he's playing baseball while people are suffering and dealing with the fallout of his policies, which he supports tariff taxes, this war in Iran, it's unnecessary, numerous things.
So Greg Steube is such a dork. Like he's such a dork. And again, I've been following this particular fellow for several years because friends of mine have run for that district over the years. And he started out saying that he was like a second-rate Bond villain because he used to be into like wearing nice suits and he had like this really douchey goatee kind of thing. But recently he's been wearing hats and cowboy boots.
Yeah.
What the hell is that?
This man, it's ridiculous. He's so insecure in his man, he won't go anywhere where he won't get talking to people firsthand that have told me that they've had events. And he calls ahead of time and wants to make sure he can wear his gun if he won't show up. And that's ridiculous. You're that,
okay.
And it's just, but yeah, he's a wannabe cowboy. And I can do that too. I can get a cowboy hat. Maybe I'll be a cowboy as well. I'm not too sure.
The cowboy from Sarasota, like that's what like this dude is all hat, no cattle, right? Like as they say in Texas. But like it was just a weird transition from being like this real flick guy to like I'm a cowboy.
He's definitely got it out there.
And hasn't done anything. Like this dude has like I think one of the lowest rates of bill sponsorship in Congress as well. Like he is such just like a poster boy for the do nothing Republicans. The only thing that he ever did was he was really, really insistent on this trans sports thing. That's like his claim to fame. That's what he hangs his hat on. Is like that he got this, he's been pushing these amendments on not making sure that the 15 people in the NCAA who are trans don't get to play. Like,
again,
it's such a stupid issue.
Yeah, well, he's abandoning his core principles as a Republican, where he wants the government in the bathroom and he wants the government in college sports and things like that. And For me, I want the world and everybody in this country to respect people for who they are, how they feel, who they love, what they look like. It shouldn't matter. Everyone should have legal protection, equal legal protection under the law, and be accepted for who they are. And as far as like kids go, can you imagine if there's been gay people and trans people all throughout the history of the world? And I believe that, God makes those people in his image, if you believe the Bible. And these people need to be. Can you imagine if you had a kid that was not sure, like they were just thinking about things, and then their dad or mom goes on TV and is talking about all this bad stuff about it. It's so wrong. Uh,
Yep. Well, that's why we have a very high suicide rate among LGBT
Absolutely.
teens.
it can't be easy. I can't imagine it. So that's why it's important for me. Want I have a kid, and I don't want to bring you into this, but it was always important for me to say, like, I'm okay with everybody, because if he was that way or whatever, I just want him to know that his parents loved him no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. Never happened to that. And also the role of the government is also supposed to be like, do no harm.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be like this neutral arbiter of all these things. And that has actually been one of the scariest things about the transition of the Republican Party. Not only this like sycophantic kakistocracy, kleptocracy that we get with Trump, but this Christo-fascism kind of thing where it's like, oh, everything has to be our way, or it's not American. And it's been such a weird transition to watch people who were far more laissez-faire like back in the 90s to kind of get over into that as well.
Or tariffs now. One more thing on Greg Steube is that, let me tell you about his legislative priorities, and the audience can decide if they think these are priorities worthy of the government. He wants to rename the DC Metro Rail the Trump train. That's one of his bills that he has. He wants he wants to rename all of the commercial waters around the United States the Donald J. Trump exclusive economic zone. So this person is completely out of touch. People here, they can't pay their health care, they can't pay their power bill. Everything is expensive, and the tell is the price of tomatoes. They hit an all-time high in the last CPI report. That tells you everything you need to know, the policies that this person supports, that he's enabled. And the problem with him is that he is more loyal to the president than the people, and he compromises his beliefs and values. He took an anti-tax pledge, and as soon as Donald Trump told him that tariffs were a good idea, he was for it. And I don't know how anybody could do that, because Peter Navarro was one of Trump's advisors on this. And Peter Navarro wrote a book where he made up a character named Ron Vara and cited it in like a paper as a reason to put tariffs on things. He made up people, and he literally cited them in books. This is just out of control.
bunch of liars. All right. So I really appreciate you coming here, Alan, and telling us about your campaign. Before we close, tell us where we can find information and what people can do to help support you.
Sure, absolutely. My website is spence2026.com. And my ask to people would be that you follow me on social media. So I'm on Facebook, Alan Spence for Congress, Instagram, Threads, TikTok. It's all very important, because our campaign is bought by special interest money. And one of the ways that we can tip the scales in our favor is we need to run a better digital game, a better social media. Our power to get our message out to more people efficiently and cheaper, it's going to be key in this next election.
Great. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much. And thanks for being here and being one of our featured candidates here in 2026. Really appreciate it, and best of luck. Definitely go check him out, and definitely donate. These are the types of candidates you guys should donate to, okay? Like, I know that sometimes we get excited about the big races, and there's like the Roy Coopers and people who, James Tallarico or whatever, right? People get excited about big candidates, but I will tell you, your dollars go further with grassroots candidates. Those folks that are getting millions of dollars or got DCCC or whatever supporting them, they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. But you give a small donation, monthly donation, $20 a month to candidates like Alan, that makes a huge difference in their ability to reach people. These are some of the hardest working candidates, these folks that are running against these establishment incumbent corrupt Republicans. These are some of the hardest working people I've ever met. And I really hope that you go out there and support them. So let me end the show by telling thank you to all the audience and everybody who's listening here. Do appreciate you. We'll love to have your support to help us keep things going here at Big Mouth Media. We are the only progressive media channel in all of Florida, and we are the only ones that are doing these kinds of work, trying to lift up candidates and progressive issues and values. So please go ahead and go to our website, get a paid subscription. We'll send this to you, get all of the videos, all the clips, all of the articles sent directly to your inbox. Go to bigmouthmediafl.com, the plans and pricing page, $4.99 a month or $49.99 a year. That helps us keep the lights on and helps us keep doing the work of fighting against fascism in the small state of Florida. So thanks once again to our guest, Alan Spence, and we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Dr. Cindy Speaks. If you'd like to learn more about her, go to cindybanier.com or connect with her directly at vote@cindybanier.com. We love connecting with people.